And we're recording. Welcome to the Rancast.
Yes,
December the 28th.
Thanks. 3 days after Christmas. Happy holidays. All of them.
Happy Festivus.
Celebrate whatever you want to. Let me celebrate what I want to, and let's all be happy. Isn't that what it's supposed to be about?
That's what it's supposed to be about.
Okay. So, the first thing is we're going to announce on January 8th, we are finally going to decide once and for all definitive tag team champions in a three-way ladder match. Up to this point, we've had craziness with basically 6 people, 3 teams that are qualified for the titles, but there's been so much craziness with the high flying of some of the smaller guys and the butt games of Poncho and Chase Gosling. It's been an officiating nightmare, and I don't think there's any way to settle this thing once and for all clear cut with these 3 teams in fact being entitled to title shots than to hang that belt above the ring, and the guy that gets up there and grabs it first and makes his way down represents his team, and they will be the clear-cut Premier Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions.
It all comes to a head. The butt games are over.
The butt games are over.
Has to be a winner. Has to be a winner.
What is a butt game?
Oh man, that can run a wide range of things.
How long have I been coining that phrase to your knowledge?
Oh, quite a while.
Yep. It's usually in anger. Enough with the butt games.
Where did you come up with it? That's the better question.
Dude, when I ran a business,
There was some butt games being played?
well, that's where it came out. You wouldn't have believed what I had to deal with. I had 40... No, I didn't. Yeah, I had at least 40 contractors under my roof, and then I had 20 subcontractors that weren't under my roof. So I was responsible for 60 people, and it was sales, and any kind of salesman, people are effing crazy. So as I do, I come up with little things to entertain myself so I don't A, do any harm to others, and B, in the meantime, do not have an aneurysm. So little things like, you fucking butt gamers, helps. Because then they look at you like, butt gamer? What?
To avoid internal combustion.
Yeah. Is that what they call when a dude explodes?
Yeah.
Internal combustion.
Internally combusted.
I've been to that point before.
The seams almost came off the baseball.
Sometimes I've gotten so worked up that I'm just sitting going, I've broken blood vessels in my eyelids.
Oh.
And also broke blood vessels in my eyeball just from the stress,
God bless.
Yep. But everything happens for a reason, so I learned a lot during that time period, going through all those things. In part, that might be what caused me from finally getting a job at World Wrestling Entertainment. I guess it was World Wrestling Federation then, so 93, let's say. Yeah, it was 93. Because I was doing a lot of things, and they were calling me. They put me in charge of booking extras for the Midwest, and I would send guys and not go. And they'd be like, I thought you were coming. I'm like, you didn't ask me to come. You asked me to book guys, So then they're like, well, you're coming on this one, right? Yeah. And then I'd sometimes go, wait a minute, if I go make this, it's, I used to do it for extra money because I needed the $250 or the $150. I think it was $250. It bumped up to $250, but it's like, I'm losing $1,000 by going.
Yeah.
So it would bounce around in my head. Am I a mark? Am I not a mark? And then one of the things that happened was right when they started to push 1, 2, 3, who you got to give Waldman credit for opening the door for the smaller guys. The guy smaller in stature, and I was actually bigger than him anyway. There was a taping in Rockford, and I had something really big going on at my company. Even though my office was in Palatine, an hour from Rockford, I just couldn't justify taking off that whole afternoon to go after I said I would go. And they had something planned for me and Waldman in the first tape, and they waited and waited and put it off until the third tape, and I just didn't show. So I don't know what that could have been, but I'm sure it was something, because they don't hold off shit, which is fine. It is what it is. I mean, I would make 200 grand that year. You know, I just couldn't walk away from that.
Speaking of that, I watched that match you worked with Bam Bam, 1992.
Yeah.
Boy, you were in, that was probably about the best shape I've ever seen you in. You were really good shape in 1992.
Yes, I was. I wasn't tan.
No, but man, if you had a tan, I mean, even without a tan, not that you were ever in bad shape, but I think that might have been, would you say it was your peak of your fitness, of your physique maybe?
Well, what's funny about that match is that's
good.
That's the year my first kid was born.
Yeah, you look like...
So whenever I just got married and had a pregnant wife, you gain some weight, you know? Mm-hmm. I did it. I was a little more cut, I would say, a year before then, but I was really fucking lean then. You know?
Look good.
And that's when I started. That's when all that shit started, where I was like, do I take off to go do these shots? You know, Slaughter called me and said, I'm your agent. You know what I mean? We looked at your tape. You know what I mean? But yeah, so, you know, it was like I couldn't find time to tan. But when that was tanned up, I looked really good.
Yeah.
And I was probably a solid 202.
Yeah, that was probably about the best I've ever probably seen you look.
I've looked better.
Really?
Yeah, I've looked better. But, yeah, I looked really good. That's when I decided to cut up. I had abs, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know, you look like you're a little bit, I don't know, a little more defined.
Yeah.
A little thicker across the shoulders. You just,
well, and again, that was against Bigelow, so that's saying something.
Yeah.
You know? No, for whatever reason, that match really got me over with the company.
Oh, I bet.
You know? I don't know why I didn't do shit.
Yeah, you took a lot of good bumps for him.
Yeah, that one spin bump was funny.
That was good.
So Billy Joe Travis used to do this really nice inside-out spin bump, you know? And the two things Billy Joe took to his grave was that and where he would get that slap from his punch. Mm-hmm. You know? We used to be like, you got to show us how to do that punch, and he wouldn't show us. You know, the only thing I could figure is maybe he was something with his arm hitting his armpit.
Yeah, actually, one of my punches that Danny Davis taught me is when you're over somebody and you throw the punch, I can't really fucking do, you do it like this.
Yeah, but it doesn't get that slap, the pop that
That's
Billy
what it does,
got.
though. You use the side of your body.
Billy's was amazing, and then he had that spin bump. So I just one day said, fuck you, Billy. I'm going to go out and do my own version. So that's my version. So I guess, you know, what got me over with that was this. It was funny because Bigelow, it was his return. And the reason he left in the first place, and this is what's up with World Wrestling Entertainment, is when they bring someone in, that's why the last agent that they dealt with for somebody that they were bringing in for the first time was Bigelow, because Larry Sharp got a piece of Bigelow's money. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, there's a tax reason or some shit where that Vince had to let him go for a while as a gimmick, and he didn't care because he was so in demand in Japan. You know, he was making good money there. So then he could come back. Larry Sharp gets nothing. Bam Bam gets all of his money from there, and then on top of that, his Japan money too. So he comes up to me, legit 400 pounder. Oh, bro, you know, I'm sorry, man. I'm telling you beforehand, man. They want me to be like real snug with you and stuff because I'm coming back from Japan. You know, and I look at him, I go, well, that's just fucking great.
He didn't look like he was that snug, though.
No, listen, asshole. So I go, and he raises his eyebrows like for a second, like, you know, like, what's this shit, you know? I go, look, dog, stiff, want to be stiff. I go, work aggressive, but all you got to do is fucking go like this, and I'll fly.
Fly, right.
You know? And I said, I'm sorry if you're taken back by it, but put yourself in my shoes. You got a 400-pound guy comes up to you and apologizes to you before the match, you know. So we laughed like hell and actually bonded over that. And then I just did what I did for him, you know. That flip bump, I didn't call it. I just did it.
Yeah.
So when I came back from that match, Rene Goulet, Ray Stevens, Kurt Hennig, we're all sitting at a table giving me what was the side eye, you know? And I'm like, you know, I want to say to these three, what the fuck? You know? Yeah. But I wasn't there yet. You know? So I just sat there and I stared back. You know? Yeah. And trying to bite my tongue or think of something funny to say at least, you know? And it goes, did you mean to take that bump? And I looked at it and I go, how could I have taken a gorgeous bump like that by accident?
Right.
And then they all three put me over.
Speaking of Billy Joe,
So, Ray Stevens, Renee Galley, and Kurt Hennig all took turns putting me over.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That always makes you feel good.
Yeah, I take that as a real compliment.
Absolutely. Speaking of Billy Joe, I've been watching a lot of Carlos's television, 1991.
Yes, Billy was down there for a while.
Yeah, and there's a YouTube channel that has every single TV.
Don't put it over. Don't give the name.
Okay. Well, I don't know the name. I don't remember.
Okay, good.
Periodically, I'll send it to you. Yeah. But so a lot of Billy Joe, and he worked. He ended up working in the main event of Anniversario that year against Hugo.
Oh wow!
You should see how over Hugo is.
Oh, he was, man. Well, that's why everybody tried to steal that what is he saying on that? What do they put on the intro? El Tangular. But what is he really saying?
I don't know. I don't know.
So, if you guys ever heard like any of that? Both companies, because he worked for both companies, they would use El Tangular, EWR, you know, because Hugo was so over, you know, down there on the island. Yeah. So Hugo and Billy Joe worked a angle in a match. How was it? But I got sucked into. Oh, I mean, it was. I mean, Hugo was stupid over, and Billy Joe, you know, kind of worker he was. Yeah. He had a lot of heat. I mean, it was just good. Billy was so good, dude. Yeah, he was really good in Puerto Rico. He wasn't at his best then. That was the shell of a man. Yeah, it was still good. Yeah. And also, Dick Murdoch was down there at the time. Yeah. That was all good stuff. Carlos was working an angle with Dino Bravo, which was actually pretty good. Oh, I'll bet. Was Dino ginormous? Yeah. Dino was ginormous. Yeah, I worked with him too for Vince. So I got sucked into that block. I think I watched that entire 1991 Send it to me, TNT. Bro. I would love to fall down a rabbit hole like that. Savio, TNT. How'd you find Miguel and Hurricane Castillo. Wow. I mean, I don't know. I just Googled, I just searched on YouTube WWC. I was looking for some anniversarios, and then I stumbled upon the television. Send me that. I'd love to see it. Yeah, yeah, you know? Yeah. Was it at Clemente? No, they used to run their big show, which IWA never ran this ballpark, Hiram Beathorn, which is the big baseball park in San Juan, which IWA never ran. That was a Carlos. Carlos's anniversarials was mostly at Hiram Beathorn Stadium, and then their big indoor arena was always usually in Caguas. Yeah, yeah. Which we would run periodically, but like Pepin Cestero was IWA's building. Bayamon, yeah. In Bayamon, Carlos's building was Caguas. Well, when I was there was no respect. They stole each other's buildings all the time. No, but I mean, they both ran it. I mean, even when I was there, Carlos would run Pepin and we would run Caguas. Yeah. But I mean, you could tell the majority of our televisions were from Pepin. The majority of Carlos's TVs were from Caguas. Gotcha. That's probably what I was. So when I say their building, everyone could run any building, but yeah, yeah. That's great, man. I'm gonna look that shit up. Yeah, I'll send you kids. If you are a prospective wrestler or a wrestler that wants to get better, watch Billy Joe Travis. Man. Oh yeah, just watch what he does with Hugo. If you want to be a heel, yeah, perfect. You know, I love. There's not too many people. Well, he could carry anybody, but point I'm trying to make is last time I worked with Billy was in Louisville, and he was late to the town. It was so funny because they're like, Billy's not here yet, but you got to go down to the ring. I'm like, mother effer, you know. And Billy was the heel. I was a baby face, which we worked together before where he was the baby and I was the heel. But I ain't seen Billy in a couple years. And in true Billy fashion, he's literally coming down the aisle lacing his boots while he's walking. But he chose to come down to Love Shack in about 1990, and he was wearing bright pink short trunks. So, you know, he was working it and getting heat and stumbling while I was putting his boots on to get heat before he even got there. And then we just did 20 minutes without seeing each other in 2 years. It was really great. Yeah. And a great learning experience for me. You know, Jeff used to credit, I don't know if he'll do it openly, but maybe he will today. He'll credit Jeff Jarrett will credit Frank Morrell and Billy Joe Travis of making him worker. You know? And a little bit of Tojo sprinkled in there, but Tojo was too old at that point to get in the ring with Jeff and do anything of consequence, you know? Well, there's another guy that I just heard recently that put over Billy, that Billy kind of took him under his wing, was Wolfie D. Wolfie I'm
D
sure.
Put Billy over. Him and Danny. Wow, he's like, Billy and Danny and Kenny Wayne all went out of their way to help him out because he was like 16 or 17 when he started working.
I'm sure. I bet the Predators wanted him.
Sure, but yeah, Wolfie put over Billy and Danny and Kenny Wayne.
Yeah, Billy wouldn't just take anybody under his wing. You had to have what he would call it. He would steal Tojo's shit and say, and Tojo would say, "Oh, you good boy, you smart boy." And Billy would say, "You're a smart boy, you're a good boy." And then if you were a good boy, he would give you the time of day,
Yeah.
Sweet guy, It was, the best learning experience for me was, so I had a 1987 XLT Ranger with the Del Mar sports package on it. It's a nice little 6-cylinder pickup. Good for 2 guys, Hit a 5-speed. And I had that truck shifter, so it was fucking big. And me and Rob had paired up, Robert Fuller. But Billy was hilarious because he wouldn't leave us alone. So the 3 of us would cram ourselves so uncomfortably into that fucking truck so we wouldn't hurt Billy's feelings.
When did Billy pass away?
I wish I could tell you. He was one of the first guys. That one really hit home. Probably 2002 or 3 or 4.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't even 40. I think it was your age. He was 38 years old. And he'd actually been off the shit for 3 weeks. And he was sleeping on his mom's couch. In the middle of the night, he died of heart failure. Yeah. And that's how far gone that his body was, Now, when you're looking at 91, I bet Billy didn't have any muscle mass whatsoever in his legs. His legs, because he did so much coke, it was just eating his muscle mass, not eating from being coked up all the time,
Yeah.
And Billy had a really great base. Vince loved Billy Joe Travis. Vince McMahon Jr. loved Billy Joe Travis. He told Billy when he was a 17-year-old kid, and you can look it up. Now, Jesse Ventura was a guy who was not very giving in the ring, especially to a young jobber. Mm-hmm. But look up Jesse Ventura versus Billy Joe Travis, and Billy was about 17 in that match, and he looked about 230 pounds. He looked great.
Yeah.
And him and Jesse had a 10-minute TV match.
Yeah.
And Vince loved him and told me, if you ever get sober, hit me up for a job.
Yeah.
And Billy just couldn't get off of it, I'd taken Billy to meetings 3 times, and we get there, and he said, "I just can't walk through the door, brother. I'll wait for you, though."
Yeah.
It was sad. It was painful,
It's tough. It's hard. It's tough.
Yep.
It's not easy. And, you consider yourself lucky you got on the wagon when you did. Because it doesn't get any easier. The older you get, it gets harder and harder.
Well, even when I got sober, dude, I was 6 foot, 128 pounds. And I was sober about 6-7 weeks, and I had this horrible pain in my side, and it would get really hot. And when I went and get the testing, I had pancreatitis from the shit. It just beat up my esophagus, beat up my pancreas at 16.
Yeah.
Because I was doing mixing all those chemicals,
Yeah.
Speed and alcohol on a constant, all day long basis.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and then the bottom just fell out, and I couldn't get any food in,
Yeah.
Couldn't keep it in either, Once I got in, it was either barfing it out or shitting it out, And, and that's in essence what happened to Billy because all that coke,
Yeah.
He did things he never thought he'd have to do. But I'm telling you, that's probably one of the most talented wrestlers over the last 50 years is Billy Joe Travis.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He's great.
Really good.
Still kind of doing the boxing gimmick in Puerto Rico, too. Well, when you get in the ring, he'd just be shadow boxing like an MF-er.
Did he have his have the gloves with?
No, he didn't, but I knew that he had done it before, and you could see he was still doing it. He wasn't doing the gloves. He may have at one point in Puerto Rico, but that was still part of his shtick. When you get in the ring, he'd always be shadow boxing. Jumping rope with no rope. Like putting his head side to side.
Yeah, it looked like Snoopy from the Peanuts.
Yeah.
Dancing, yeah. He was hilarious, man. He when I was down there, he gets so much heat. Oh man, one day somebody jumped 2 guys jumped the fucking guardrail in Evansville. And Billy just started wailing on this motherfucker with the gloves on, because he went out there and he would say, he claimed that this is when Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson.
Right.
Which Tyson was unbeatable, And you know what I mean? And Billy claimed that he trained fucking Buster, you know?
Well, I just think, you know, if you think about it, now Carlos's business was down, but they would still sell out for Anniversario.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, considering you had
Billy meant something.
TNT and a partner, I forget who, versus Demolition, Dino Bravo versus Carlos, Invader, all those guys. Still, Billy Joe Travis worked the main event against an announcer. So that's a testament to Billy Joe Travis.
Shows you how much. But it was funny because what he would do is I'd challenge any man in this building to a boxing match.
Yeah.
And then they had Terry Garvin with him, part of Beauty and the Beast. And he would say, yeah, and I'd challenge any of you woman folk. You know? So they get heat, and then one day somebody flew over, and Billy wailed on this guy, and then this was before his match, and then he came back to the stage. I go, brother, we didn't know you were a hard ass. He goes, I was so scared. I just come back here to get my compulsion. I can't fight. I don't know how that happened. Oh, you know, it was great. He goes by, you know, and then he talk about it later, you know, putting himself over. You know, and he's like, you always got to do that, though, even though I can't fight. You got to protect our businessmen. If somebody jumps that rope and gets in the ring, kick the fuck out of them, you know?
Oh, yeah, man.
Kick the fuck out of them, hurt them. And that's what Billy did.
Well, that's part of it. Even if you can't, that's part of working. You can't let people know. Just for your own credibility.
So, well, as we dip out here, this was the teaser. I'm going to go ahead and remind you again, for those that don't subscribe yet, subscribe to Patreon. Help support us. Great content. You're not going to get any more actual match content anywhere on Patreon right now.
Thousands of matches in the library.
And anyway, back to what I was saying. We're going to talk about AEW, and I think what we'll do first is we're going to go ahead and start with, and you'll have to subscribe to get the rest of it, how QT Marshal actually already pinned Phil Brooks. Yes, last week, the week before on their main show, QT Marshal actually pinned CM Punk. Gianna, cut here.
Who's QT Marshal?